the good, the bad, the ugly, the war stories. I think this is a more intimate group, so feel free to come on in. We're going to make this conversational, helpful as much as possible for everybody. I think, yeah, just to frame things, I'm the political science major on the AI panel, so this is application. If you want to go debate models and get your weights and biases straight, there's, I'm sure, another panel, a softball throw away in San Francisco. This is people using AI to try to create outcomes, create difference, and yeah, excited to share some perspective from that experience. Again, including successes and aspirations, and also pitfalls and openings, I think. So we got an hour. We want to make this as useful for you all as possible. So the ROE I would ask for, if you've got a clarification or amplification to something that's just been said, feel free to jump in with a question. We are going to have dedicated time at the end. If you've got a different, you want to take us in a different direction, you want to hypothesize AI, whatever, let's save it for the end. We'll be able to kind of get to the smorgasbord at that point. And yeah, we're going to get kicked off. We've got a really cool panel of folks that are living this every day in the trenches. I'd like to start by just asking everybody to introduce themselves and what they're working on. I'll do the same to start, and also give my panel the ROE. These first couple, I'm sure we'll cycle through everybody, especially as we get going. Feel free to jump in, jump out, whatever's applicable. We don't. I always hate those like mechanical. Well, everybody's got to say comment on everything or whatever. It feels we're humans. Let's interact as such. So jump in wherever's up. So let me start off intros, and we'll just pass it down the line. John Denniston, military background on the Air Force side. Ended up in business school and tech. I wanted to build, and I was going to build coming out of business school, but I got the self-driving bug there. Spent the last 8 years self-driving cars and trucks. Been a great adventure to see that kind of new capability come to life, and had the good fortune of meeting my co-founder across. We work together now, 2 companies, 8 years, operationalizing those self-driving fleets, and we were taking insights from that experience into a new company, Repair Ally, where we were building have built a AI co-pilot for auto repair technicians. Turns out that people turning wrenches on whatever you drive need to do a lot of knowledge work and don't have any of the support that the average desk workforce gets in terms of all the AI co-pilots we get to in our day-to-day life. So we're trying to bring that same goodness to deskless workers. So it's me and what I'm working on. I'm going to hand it over to Kevin. Flew straight into this, Kevin.
Yes. Thanks so much for having me. So I'm Kevin Holm, the founder and CEO of Glid. A little bit about my background. I'm a veteran as well. I did 6 years active duty with the Army, joined the Army at age 17 to do my part right after 9/11. So I'm aging myself a little bit. So I did 2 tours in Iraq, one in Afghanistan, in the Army. I was a cab scout that did logistics as well. So everybody knows when you're in the Army, you need 2 jobs. So my first job was mechanized infantry, cab scout. Second job was be a logistician. So I did railhead operations for the Army, where we moved our tank and Bradleys from site to site, point to point. I got out of the Army in 2006, wanted to go and pursue my dream of dancing. I'm Panamanian, grew up dancing salsa, cumbia, bachata, and then I moved to California, and San Diego was on fire. So I went to join the Air Force National Guard as a firefighter. Fought fires here with the Air Force National Guard, so I am a modern day Army Air Corps person. Fought fires here in California for a good bit, about 13 years, retired in 2018, still a volunteer firefighter. Then on the civilian side, I've been a hardcore startup, build hardware type of guy. So first startup was with SpaceX, joined as employee number 250, built up the flight module logistics organization. First person to work commercially launch, ship, and recover a rocket at SpaceX. Did that for 4 years, pushed off to Northrop Grumman, where I served on the F-35 fighter jet program for about 1.5 years. Didn't like the bureaucracy associated with working at a prime. So I went back into the dark side, the best side. Startup world, so Romeo Power, XOS Trucks, Canoe, and then went into business for myself for a while. Helped other startups build electrification programs, Hydroplane, Zero Labs, and a couple others. And COVID hit. And then Harley Davidson gave me a call, and they said, hey, I want to be in the e-bike game. I want to do a bicycle because everybody's buying motorcycles. So I helped Harley Davidson design the first e-bike called Serial 1. Put the bike into 52 countries around the world, and then I saw the real problem. And looked at myself and said, how can I not help? And the real problem was congested. No one was going to work. Rails severely underutilized. No one was transporting there, and we had a lot of congestion on the road, as we're still experiencing now. And I said, God is giving me gifts in order to solve this. And so I quit Harley-Davidson and started Glide. Glide is the world's first autonomous road-to-rail solution. I have one glider here, Brian Campbell. Most of you know this handsome man. He helps me with Measure16, our software, but we are hardware meets software to synchronize two modes of transportation, road and rail, and advanced stack to solve problems on the commercial side and the defense side. So thanks for having me.
Not everyone with all of it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Design the motors.
Trying to sit over
Just
this.
way cooler than me. All right, I'm Castillo, founder and CEO of Co-Optimal. Background, I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years. Got out at 09. I did Intel, as part of our stock when I got started. Went to Iraq and Afghanistan. Decided to see what else I could be good at, and then went to Stanford, focused on computer science with a specialization in AI. After that, I went to a company called Hutter. I was founding engineer type, really excited about applying machine learning to real problems, and ended up building core technology around 3D reconstruction of buildings and homes. And was there for about 8 years with an applied research group, really just focused at this intersection of frontier developing technology and applying it to real product solutions. After 8 years left, great team there still, better led as well. And joined paid compensation, which, depending on the audience here, you might be using them for your compensation decisions. Wasn't that interested in compensation, honestly, but I really liked the team and the trajectory, and ended up leading product engineering design there, building data products, monetizing data products. But after a few years, I just realized it wasn't going to be for me. I needed to get back to what I came to tech for, which was using machine learning to do what humans can't do, try to extend them beyond what they're capable of doing themselves. And so, also though, when I was at Paid, I developed a bit of a problem-solving framework when I was working with various people. I called it the optimal agent problem-solving framework. I didn't really call it a framework when I would do it. I would just ask them, I was thinking, well, what would an optimal agent do in this situation? And that is, if they had bias, blind spots, perfect information about the landscape and everybody that's out there, that they need to navigate, what would they do? And I found that to be a very useful problem-solving mechanism. Human systems and business systems and all that. And so, what's possible now with Core AI is that you can actually do that with software now, and you can have that type of optimal agent thinking for all the decision making you need to do. So that's relatively broad, so I've narrowed in a few different areas I can get into. But yeah, I started a company less than a year old. Context Ventures invested, and it's great. Just big supporter and fan of veterans. First time I met him back at Stanford, he said, how can I help you? I was like, yeah, we're just getting coffee. But that's Tim for you. Anyways, what Co-Optimal does is we try to answer the question of what would an optimal agent do in your shoes? And it's really to empower you, keep you as the decision maker. Currently focused in hiring intelligence decision making there. Also doing some pilots with VCs that are doing founder diligence. They're about to invest millions of dollars. They have a limited signal on who this person is about to invest in. Pretty vibes-based. I mean, somebody yesterday was saying that they asked their wife to meet the founder before they decide if their judgment's bad, and so very judgment-focused, enhancing judgments, which is going to be really important in the future, especially as execution goes more towards agents. And so, all right, I'll get off the pedestal and hand it over.
Oh, thank you.
Alex, take it away.
All right, so I'm Alex List, co-founder of Shirley. So aviation is 4% of the global economy. It's only been around for 120 years or so. It's pretty evident that with the changes that are happening in autonomy and language models, AI, and connectivity, that it's going to look very different in definitely 100 years. Probably also in the next 5 years, it's going to be very different. If you take a look at a Waymo can just pull over beside the street if there's a connectivity issue. If you're in an aircraft, there's not that luxury. So what we're building is a system that can do risk management in flight. We're starting with a co-pilot for pilots. Essentially, we're teaching people to fly, and then we're teaching Shirley to fly by using that same educational material in order to work as reinforcement learning for Shirley. We made a lot of progress starting by launching today, actually, with this company called Sporties, which is one of the biggest educational content provider for aviators in the civilian space in the country. And we're bridging out our way to doing one-to-many remote operation pilot support in order to be able to leverage the kind of growing economy in remote piloting operations. Today I'm here with my co-founder co-founder Joe, we're on a air tour, our second air tour. What we're doing is demonstrating the in-flight capabilities of Shirley. Right now we have probably the best civilian, starting with civilian training sim platform. Essentially, you can go and have a custom curriculum generated for your particular flight school or as in your particular classroom. That is an extremely effective way in order to deliver educational content. And then we're gradually moving our way into in-flight. Some of our next goals are to teach Shirley instrument flying so that we can assist with people in flight. We have an iPad app that's really great for pilots. My background is civilian. I was programming from a very young age and made some of the first iPhone apps and won an Apple Design Award, which got me into MIT. I couldn't give up that opportunity yet, but although I have so many friends and family members in the veteran and active workforce, and so we're really thrilled to be kind of a dual-use technology where we're able to support the warfighter and throughout the different domains in the world, and thrilled to be on this panel and do all of you.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing up mobile there, Alex, because that's one of the ways I find myself thinking about this current moment. The iPhone came out my first summer in the military, so I remember going to the AT&T store in Montgomery, Alabama, and living that seminal moment and watching, some of what was described in the panel. But, I was deployed and living military adventures while the Uber, Airbnb, all these mobile first disruptions got built. Felt like I was watching that from afar. This time we're getting a chance to now live it all up in person. So one more question to set the stage here, and then we'll get into some topical stuff. I think hopefully everybody knows now who's here and generally what they're working on. I want to just double click on this title we got, AI for impact. What is AI doing in your application, in your product, in your world? Like if you were building your company 2 years ago, what is possible now, or what killer app are you doing that wouldn't have been possible then? I'll just start quickly with what we're doing with auto repair technicians. The biggest thing, we're starting with diagnostics, and it's synthesis of a zillion variables that 24 months ago, the answer to how to diagnose a car was generally like some point solutions, but the holistic answer was like, oh, you just got to get experience, right? Go do it for 10 years, go do it for 20 years, maybe like some things in the military, right? Just to get enough turns on the wrenches and you'll get the pattern recognition. Now it's the same sort of knowledge lookup that we all enjoy out of the LLMs, but this synthesis in our space of hey, a bunch of there's breadcrumbs everywhere, and so whether it's a technical data point or a noise that's being reported, or a smell, or we got a technical service bulletin on that vehicle, being able to just do that instantaneously for a technician, put it all together, hey, go check these 3 things. It's a killer app. That's some of the impact we're seeing with AI that wasn't possible a few months ago or a few quarters ago. Kevin, how about your world? You got hardware and software, but specifically on the AI piece, what's possible now that wasn't a few years ago?
Absolutely. The way we look at it is speed and resources, right? So the speed in which you come about technology, we're on the physical AI front as well as the software AI front. So physically, you had an army of engineers that had to put together the CAD drawings and so forth, in order to put together a vehicle or whatever you're looking to build. Whereas now you can leverage AI to streamline your supply quality chain, your entire value stream, all of your manufacturing requirements, and your build plan all in one click. On the software side as well, you had to have an army of software engineers now having a very, very talented head of software with some agentic folks that can build a product like Azure 1.6 in a very, very fast amount of time. Put it in the beta, put it in the customer's hands, and get that iteration cycle very, very fast as well. Whereas 2 years, it's like, it's going to take you 2 years to get a beta version out to your customer in order to pilot on both sides of the fence. So, speed, resources, cost, all the above.
It's fantastic. And actually, I just want to double click on that framework because I expect we may come back to it a few times. I shared this when we were talking earlier, but when I was in self-driving cars, Cruz, Kyle Lowe, our co-founder there, he always had this great framework that reminded we're doing 2 things here. We're building a self-driving car as the product, but we are building a company that builds self-driving cars as the process. And so I think AI can be a turbocharger on both. We're building companies here and we're building products, and in some cases, AI is touching both, but in some cases, it's very contrasting impacts there. Let's keep going on AI impacting in either of those domains, in fact, the company or the product, but what's AI unlocking that wasn't available a few quarters ago?
I wish I had as concise an answer as you guys. much that's being developed right now, but years ago. There's multiple things that are making rendezvous possible. One would be voice AI and our ability to really interpret and understand real-time communication very quickly, analyze it, pull out patterns. That's something very big on doing. You can really do that at scale. You can really do all at the scale needed to what I'm doing. That allows me to build a really rich model of you and landscape by analyzing how you're showing up in it or by interacting with you directly to push you in certain areas that we need to explore or model. So voice AI is a huge thing, and that's going to continue to get better. They can't quite have the conversation that we're having yet, but like it's going to get there soon enough with how fast things are going. And you can imagine, I think I was talking about with you in the elevator, when we're conversing, mental models of each other, reflecting off of each other, different thoughts, that's becoming possible with AI, and that's just going to create these new ways of interacting with it and unlocking deeper levels of personalization. The next wave, I would say, or contextualization. You love software that really just comes into your world and adapts and understands it, models it, and can just meet you where you really need it to, instead of having to learn that software. So that's something I'm probably getting into what I'm building as well. I think the other big unique thing is, I guess specific to what I'm building is, there's expertise out in the world. More narrowly specific to what I'm doing is behavioral expertise, understanding what a person's saying, why they would say it, what they're doing, and having expert level, say top 10 behavioral analysis at your fingertips, and bringing that to you in your daily problem solving is something that I'm doing heavily to try to get people leverage. So yeah, a lot.
Fantastic. One last one here. Did you start before the AI era on the current project?
So basically what we started was maybe, it was like ChatGPT 3.5 turbo era. And so at that point you couldn't you couldn't prompt an LM to not respond if anything. And so you had to get it to, okay, now we're going to get too much of it's in the end. But you had to output at least one emoji, otherwise it wouldn't be able to terminate its output. And so you could take that and replace it with an empty space character. That was the trick. So talking about the actual, I'm just going to echo what a lot of you folks are saying, and maybe add one little bit to it. And obviously, the real unlock is voice AI. So it's basically text to speech, and also and speech to text. Like those are two really major things that don't unlock. Speech to text in particular was really not good enough for a very long time. The other, of course, is the language models themselves. But one more thing to add there is that we thought probably 2 years ago, given the pace of everything, that we'd be able to have essentially a digital instructor, like essentially that is going to, if you can provide the data in a particular way, that it would be able to, provide people with instruction and quality. What we realized is that, what you actually need to do is you need to actually play into the AI strengths, because even though the models get smarter and smarter, and use the smartest models that we can get our hands on, actually what you need to do is you need to play into the strengths of summarization, generation, and create sort of challenges as a document format, and so now you're able to generate new lessons for pilots and training. And so we kind of looked at, hey, this is going to be a long march to have something that's kind of equivalent to an actual instructor in the cockpit. But in the meantime, let's go and emphasize what it's actually doing. So I think that's maybe the one thing that's changed in this within the first year. It's sort of leaning into that.
Super, which is actually a perfect entry point. Getting, okay, we set the stage, what people are working on, specific AI capabilities, go a little bit more thematic now and potpourri to whoever's got the most scar tissue on the topic or relevant war stories. One of the things that came out of pre-brief as we were just getting to know each other a little bit earlier is the recognition that we've got AI being used in, I think it was described as higher stakes scenarios, be it flying, be it heavy rail cars, be it funding decisions, other things. Let's talk about managing risk and a little bit what you were talking about of, hey, clear-eyed realization, I think, of what sort of technologies you're good at, what they're not good at. Less about, hey, how did I do risk on a specific problem? Any frameworks, any larger approaches to how we decide what to let the technology do versus not do? You know, this broader topic of managing risk in these scenarios.
I can start here, which is, I think that our primary thesis has been, humans and AI systems are going to be very complementary for quite some time. And so what we see with that is sort of acting as a decision support tool for humans that are either flying with an AI system, either in the cockpit synthesis kind of suggests a particular outcome that the pilot then reviews. You know, we're looking at a lot of problems that are like kind of NP hard, right? They're hard to figure out what's the perfect solution to the problem, but then you can actually like check it very quickly. And so, like, you know, one of the interesting realizations we had is that it's not, a lot of these systems aren't like that much smarter, you know, quote unquote, smarter than like individual people. It's just that they think way faster. They think way faster than like at this point, pretty much. And so that if you're kicked around in an airplane, that's actually pretty helpful. You don't have to open up a book and go through pages. And so, you know, decision support things that pilots can check either intuitively or by opening up the answer. You know, that's been our approach so far. And I think as we provide more and more of a database, they will be able to move and train models into being able to demonstrate that things can act more independently. But all those things seem pretty far away until you can actually have a full case for data. But that's kind of the approach that we take.
Yeah, and then for us, we move really heavy stuff with very heavy stuff, right? So our loads are between 10,000 upwards of 60,000 pounds, and our vehicles are like 20,000 pounds. So the first risk is the perception of moving a very heavy thing across two modes of transportation, road and rail. How do you solve for that? You put a human in the truck. So that's the perceptive risk that you buy down. The next one is the regulatory risk. So you put a human in a truck and get, build a certified vehicle that is compliant to government bodies, FRA and the DOT, based on the FMVSS, in order to buy down another risk. And then you have technological risk. So you do everything manual with human in the loop. While you build another vehicle that is a robot, that is futuristic, that has autonomy and compliant, you operate that in industrial parks and for the fence. And you manage it in parallel to, reduce the technological risk, and that's what we do, at Glid. And the reason why we do that is for those same reasons, so that we can have a revenue-generated market while proving out, our thesis in the market where regulatory is important. But it is, but yeah, you know what I'm saying.
So I'm hearing some deliberate, like, structurally and incrementalism, and not just the veteran jadedness, but like the, hey, let's crawl, walk, run, let's get there deliberately versus just jump straight to the food and maybe get some surprising results. But
Yeah,
I think you found out the hard way. Like, I'm using my military voice. When I first launched Glide out, it was, hey, let's use this robot to pick up a fully loaded trailer with 2 vehicles and show it out to the world, because the world needs this now, right? And the world says, hell no, I will never. It's going to change everything we're doing with the brakes, and this thing weighs 80,000 pounds, it's going to kill somebody, right? And the reality is, like, I have to solve a problem based on first principles, but how do you do that skip set-wise, make folks comfortable? And I think it's really important. It's not so much about the solution, but it's the problem that you're looking to actually solve. It may not look like sexy and glorious and stuff like that in the forefront, but solving that problem is the great thing about that solution, right? No matter what it looks like. So.
is there the last one on this risk issue?
Yeah, I think about this a lot, because a lot of what I'm targeting is high-stakes decision-making or high-stakes moments. It's when someone's really going to be interior in the thinking or the environment. It's not just recommending what's for dinner. It's, should I do X? Should I fire Y? And do all these different sort of things that have real-life impacts. And the rest that I think about a lot, the Bill framework's thinking about it, is people are leaning on AI right now heavily for decision-making, and it's not, it just comes out with these really great, brilliant answers that sound really good. And you say, hey, that's AI, that's ChatGPT, I think knows what, that's super smart, right? But it actually doesn't, it's not fully aligned to the true situation that you're in. And so it's, and I'll catch myself doing it, I catch a lot of people doing it, you've got government officials doing it, and it sounds really incredible. It's only get better at sounding incredible. And these companies are just, they're not incentivized to show that it actually doesn't know the true context of the decision it's inviting and like advising on. So it has a really smart sounding answer, but it's not potentially aligned to what you really need to achieve or understand things. Do you have a question?
What kind of bullshit detector do you use in the situation where you got to test the models to make sure they're not lying?
It's a good question. I mean, in my particular use cases, I focus on what I call impression management, and steering is the person, if we're modeling someone else, if we're trying to model a decision in the wild here, how consistent are they? And is there patterns associated with that would suggest that they're inconsistent? You can't say somebody's lying or things. That's more of my use case. What I do specifically is I anchor in evidence, and I force evidence on everything, and I have multiple confirming things before we would say, hey, we're confident in this, and you have to have a product that's demonstrating openness about what it knows and what it doesn't know, so that the user is making knowing where it should intercede with its judgment. Otherwise, it's, you're potentially manipulating them, or you're making a bad decision, and they can come back on you as like, hey, you told me X, but you were. So there's multiple methods. I think I could speak specifically about my company and these things, or more generally. So.
That's great, and I actually want to pull the thread a little further on some of these, getting into the war stories section, which as we're hitting about half our time, I think is perfect. One of my favorite parts about this particular event and the community Tim's created is, I think there's a baseline of trust here behind closed doors, and so the chance to honestly learn from one another. I've seen that a lot in the last couple of days of what worked, what didn't work. I'd like to spend a second there on, your own journey with building with this technology. Any missteps, surprises, or any misconceptions perhaps that somebody stepping into a journey, you think back to yourself 12 months ago before you were doing the impact we talked about, some surprises on the other side of actually building with this stuff, or again missteps, landmines, and plans to avoid for those assembled here. Any good war stories to contribute to the crowd here?
Yeah, I'll say one. I love to share stories. So, trying to build fast with tools before the team has a baseline on what their actual job is the biggest mistake that I've seen across all the startups and technology that I've done. You work for a high-tech company like SpaceX, and you have to utilize high-tech tools to do regular jobs. So you spend a lot of money, and no one knows how to actually do their job. Is a big nightmare as a CEO. Where you're wasting money month after month, year after year, to realize that you hired a SME that gave their technology to ChatGPT, or gave their knowledge and their job to ChatGPT to actually do, and it's still not a process. So we've gone through that as well as a company, and now I'm to the point where I'm like, hey, we're going to do everything on pen and paper and Excel spreadsheets, because I hired the best to do the best job, and then we'll overlay technology. And I think that's really important, to do everything based on first principles and build up from there. So you have a robust company. If technology fails, how do you return back to baseline and still be successful in execution?
I love this point, because be my own answer on kind of the previous question and this one, like this, we're living through a fascinating technical moment here, but like technology does not replace common sense.
Yeah.
And like there can just be some basic structuring, first principles. I think that's the perspective that a lot of this community brings to the room. You've been on the pointy end, you've been in the unsupported environment and had to figure it out, had to do the pens and paper solution. So in our case, like in auto repair, it's a little bit of a how do you manage risk and also avoid missteps thing. We're a little bit different than what you might expect the Silicon Valley answer. We're not trying to train a model and come up with one right answer and a bunch of cool data synthesis. But at the end of the day, we are just digitizing proven diagnostic processes. I'm not trying to, it's fascinating how many investors I have to have this conversation with you. They're like, we're not trying to get to one right answer. We're trying to give that technician the fastest path. Go check these 3 things in this order, kind of thing. That, again, there's like common sense here. This is the basic structure, evolved for 100 years for a reason. Let's just start with that as a baseline and turbocharge from there. But let's go to any other war stories, missteps, misconceptions that we share some scar tissue with the room and benefit others.
Will's just getting started, so
Yeah.
it's got a little more time before that happens. So I think one of the things that we learned is that trying to be going to conferences, meeting a lot of really interesting people who work as sort of military contractors, big name military contractors, and having conversations about, hey, we've got this really newfangled training system that can provide a lot of value for the warfighter, and having those conversations again and again, go nowhere, compared to actually talking directly to people who are in the chain of command. Going to one of their contractors is kind of a dead end and uses up a lot of cycles. It is one of those challenging things, because as somebody who's like both a technical person and also as a in business development, you just felt the speed up. We're coded like 5 times times faster than we were, 2 years ago, to your point. And so it's like, that time lost, you're like, well, that's compounding on product development. So I think that's kind of like the one thing is just like focus directly on if you're going dual use, focus directly on the warfighter themselves and go and directly try to support that.
Technology doesn't replace common sense, focusing on the user. Maybe one more kind of thread on this risk and responsible and all the rest of it, to the high risk operation we're talking about. Let's talk about establishing trust in these systems. We need different applications, different needs, but some of this, black boxness, I sometimes actually particularly worry about this in like defense applications, defense tech applications. Think about my own experience on active duty and, just trust the system. The calculator said X kind of thing. And again, people still need to apply common sense, but how, in your particular verticals and applications, how do you think about establishing trust? What does that look like? Is that showing the work? Is that creating traceability? Is that just proof points? How do you build trust with an AI-driven system?
Yeah, I think it's through repetition. Train your buddy, right? Human in the loop. You put a human in the job to do the digital twin type environment, and AI replicates it, but does it better, more effectively, more efficiently. Technology doesn't get tired. I mean, that's the benefit of it all. But it needs to be trained the right way to identify tendencies that we make as humans and to prove out those tendencies as well. But yeah, regretted repetition is the
Yeah, for me, it's I'm focused on individual use, and so I have to show that through alignment to what their intentions are, what they're actually trying to achieve, and I have to continuously do that. They'll lose trust if this is off course, or if I'm giving advice or any of these things, it has to demonstrate beyond what they would get elsewhere that it's truly aligned to their context, and so that's how I think about it. And so actually there's a spectrum here. The more the system shows that it has truly understands your goals and what you're trying to achieve, it's going to give you more nuanced answers that you're looking for. And that might be in learning, teaching somebody that's like, oh, she really knows where I'm at with this. It's not misunderstanding my question, right? Because that just ends up being annoying. So I do that through really just modeling what they're trying to achieve. And something that comes on.
That's fascinating. I think we talked a lot about like context going into these systems, but I hadn't thought as much about the context coming out. That's right.
Yeah, so in our particular domain, we had a customer the other day, one of our loan simmers was doing a final approach in a sim session. He said, okay, can you configure a randomized failure? And Shirley said, okay, yeah, no problem. I'll get you. I got failure, nice failure set up for you. Didn't happen. It landed, and he was like, why did you not do that? And Shirley said, we were flying so well, I didn't want to disrupt you. Which is just, kind of like, a few issues there. Like one of them is just like, well, it's a little gaslighting. It's like, I told you I was going to do it, and I didn't do it. And then the other one is like, there's actually like the particular instance of it, which is, how can the actual pilot have that feedback that the action was accomplished? And if this was the case, in terms of information that was actually garnered for that use case, that would be a major problem. And so when we talk to big commercial partners, we talk about how do we do this, how do we use this in some of your operational circumstances. Obviously this is like this category of problem, something that's like very crucial for the industry. And so the point is like, can we actually provide, how do we actually provide it? So one of them is visual feedback. Here's the reference for, how you started it. So if you don't trust what I'm saying or you want to verify it, it's right here. You can see that it's like wrongly acted on. And then the other aspect is, of course, like sound effects and things like that like actually, make the person actually have some sort of chaperoning. Because again, it's not AGI. It's like not, it doesn't know, and it's like stuck in this context where, it's only waking up every once in a while. And so, of course, all these things are getting better, moving in that correct direction. But we have to define what are the targets for which would you like to be able to provide, and then, all right, what do we need to do in order to provide those reliability bounds? Do we need to disable certain features? Do we need to be able to because that's a big part of aviation, so if you want to have reliability in certain things, sometimes you actually just disable the other things that it's going to do. So, it's a variety of things, but it's such a crucial thing. I think it's actually an ongoing process, especially as technology is improving, and the integration is also increasing more as in different ways.
Awesome. I'll it's funny, my co-founder and I spend so much time in self-driving. We feel like kind of actually come to a little easier use case in auto repair now, where it's like a little less life or death at the moment. But spend a lot of time worrying in self-driving, which we'll talk more about in just a second. But the interesting thing for us in this industry is we'd actually lead with AI. It's a different industry, different perspective, and like brand and are you blessed? I don't know if you see some of the same thing in aviation or whatever, but the number one question we get is did the OEM bless this, or where's your data? If you got this magic brand's been well established, or you got the brand, which we got rid of the data sources, but our argument on trust actually kind of comes back from our self-driving experience. What the way, a bunch of things that go into a self-driving safety case, but one of the I think most interesting is you can give the software all the hard situations, all the last 100 fatal crashes in this city. Let's simulate them and see what the software would do in that scenario, or the last 1,000 mistakes that software made. So we try to do the same thing actually in auto repair, getting a little less likely death. But we go find the hardest diagnostic scenarios that real technicians are dealing with, run on our software, and see how to do it and figure it out. If it's sensitive down the wrong tree or not. And so we're trying to educate the industry a little bit, bring them to that, like, hey, it's not just a brand name, you just write a check and get whatever brand name you want on this thing. It's actually like by the outcomes, and we're benchmarking and trying to create a proof point and I think data set that like this thing actually works in a way that maybe hasn't been done in the industry before. But time maybe, I hope everybody's thinking about some other topics, other directions to go. We'll be coming to a bigger section of audience questions in just a second. We're kind of closing out a few threads here of trust and safety and responsibility and risk and all the rest. Let's just do the popcorn section here of what keeps you up at night regarding your implementation of the technology or any of these topics we've talked about. What are you worried about?
I think, yeah, go ahead.
You first. No, you first.
I was going to say edge cases. It's like exactly what you're saying. It's like your data flywheel, but then you probably can find something that's very far out of distribution. How do you want to support that, and can you support that? It's a language-based system. And so as a result, people are going to say things in weird ways, weird things are going to happen. And so how is the responsibility of that system? And so just like you're saying, it's that trust and safety cases about how do you continue to improve your data situation and improve your system out.
Absolutely. For us, it's all about execution. This panel is about AI for impact. Why do we create Glid? What's the impact that we're looking to make? I look at the folks that have to deal with our solution not being around. The marginalized communities that live adjacent to ports and rails, or the rail yard, rail service communities that no longer have commerce because commerce has moved away to other places and not really suffer from other things. The geopolitical tensions in the world and how we can solve for some of that war fighting with our technology. What I think about, what keeps me up is the speed and delivery of our solution to customers' hands so we can solve for that. That's why we exist. And I think if you're a CEO or a founder or investor or a partner or a policymaker, that's not your North Star that keeps you up. And you probably have to look over your shoulder. Not to shame or anything like that, but that's what we do. Just finding someone that's what keeps me up. Everything else is part of that.
Execute. Joel, anything on your side?
Sure, yeah. Keep it AI focused. Something I think about is the future of work and given our company, people make decisions and understand what they should do and how to navigate. Just the speed at which things are shifting to every job changing. So the execution just shifted even in the last 6 weeks, 12 weeks. How different roles are working is really just shifting the landscape. And so I'm constantly thinking about the types of judgments that are being made. That's important what I'm working on, obviously, but then just the fundamental nature of work is changing at the same time. And so the incentives can potentially change as well. That, and then, there's also just spectrum, a lot of the just from my companies around optimal, being optimal. And that's very important to me. But it's not as important to everybody. There's like a wide range of things where people are kind of just lazy. And it's becoming even easier to be lazy. And so I think about that sometimes too, making sure I'm calibrated where the market is at, where my users are at versus where I want
prelude to one of the last questions I want to make sure to get to before we open it up for a little bit more, but let's go forward-looking then here. I think about this conference. Tim's heard me pitch some crazy ideas over the years. I made, I think, 3 out of 5 of these things. Well, let's pretend we're back on this stage 12 months from now. Forward-looking, this little bit of room to take this where you want, but talk about the technology, about your solution, all the rest of it. What are some forward-looking predictions or expectations of, I mean, the world, like we talked about at the beginning, the world's changed a lot in 24 months of what we're doing now versus what we would have been doing if we were building those companies then. Try to project forward and maybe pull out some of these things that have been talked about where the puck's going, what new opportunities are being unlocked, new technology, new capability, new impact. What do you see? We're back on this stage 12 months from now. What have we been talking about? What we have achieved?
Sure. Yeah. Think about it too much, probably. 24 months from now, I think, let's talk about professional services, like all of those jobs, and how people are doing that work. It's be heavily agent delegated in the whole industry there. I think there's still good people that are people are probably reading about as well. Entry-level people coming in, judgment's going to really matter. How are they going to be trained? I'm not as concerned about that, although it is an important problem. I just think the nature of that work is going to change, and I've been thinking about even tech companies, product engineering, design, the way that they work is just shifting so much, and so if I'm going to use a solution, the software for them, it's just how they're changing. I think it's going to change even more. We have much smaller teams. Maybe some of these are a little bit obvious. I think there's some other predictions I have. I think that mental health AI is not going to be as successful as people would like it to be, which I can get into. I just think that even though AI will be smarter and better, I think it's going to be hard to trust it in these ways, but it'll still get used. And that relates to some of the things that we're touching as well.
For us, we focus on American reindustrialization. 12, 24 months from now, the rail corridor is utilized much more. You have less congestion on roads, you have safer roads, more utilized rail. Heavy cargo should be in guardrails, on rails. You have ports that are no longer towers of containers, but parking lots, which should be, if you have a tower of containers, then you have customers not getting their product, and then you have high margin in products as well. So, what is the combat for inflation and tariffs is, making sure that the consumer has a lower price in landed goods and logistics that affects that. So 12, 24 months from now, we look to impact that as well. And then lastly, you reinvigorate the American economy in the form of new and better and safer jobs, along with the industries that really impact America, which is logistics jobs, warehousers, truck drivers, railroad operators, that really feed America across all commodity types. Logistics just stop with containers. You can fit everything in a container. So being able to feed us and then blossom out to the rest of the world as well. And then lastly, as we become an interplanetary species, and we land on Mars, and we put rail on Mars, look to get commodities from place to place, point to point, utilizing the glider. So we say don't ship it, just glide it. So gliding would be the third form of transportation, and that's how I foresee it. So hold me to it.
That's awesome.
I got one more. I think in 12, 24 months that it's going to be accepted that you have AI systems that know you better than any other human knows you. And it'll be, I don't know how that lands in the audience. It feels obvious to me that that's going to be the case. And what that means then for how we actually work and interact is just going to change a lot of things.
That's super good. Implicitly accepted a lot of that with the social media stuff in the last decade. But
Yeah.
those are those guys. But final prophecies here, predictions.
So the statement is that the future is here, it's just not even distributed, right? And so folks are going to be able to, of course, have their burrito delivered to your house very quickly, no matter where you are in the air. But also when you arrive to your airplane, it'll already know what the flight plan is. It'll know that you're nodding off and a bit tired. Maybe you might want to divert to this particular town because they have a hotel that you like staying at, a good coffee shop or whatever, something like that. If you're flying 767 and something happens to your AP you act in the back, you're going to have a remediation that shows up on your iPad right away. It's going to say, hey, here's the procedure. It's going to cut down on the time or actually fix things and reduce higher workload and tremendous amounts. You're going to have the ability to be sitting in an remote operations center and say, actually directing the wing or reliable robotics aircraft. And, the Shirley is going to basically say, hey, I noticed in the airspace there's some reports of UAS activity in this area. Keep that in mind. Otherwise, it seems like it would be pretty straight shot. Here's what I recommend for an entry to either aircraft reported and help me increase that spread. Overall, you're going to be able to speak to pretty much any of the vehicles that you sit in. You can say, pull over here, as well as just having that double click the door button and get out in the middle of the street. This overall world, people are going to be able to have flight training. They're going to be able to have it tailored for their custom situation. And they're going to go do a flight, come back, have it uploaded, analysis, and instructors going to assign them some things. So we're just looking at compounding and multiplication of everything together in the space.
Right. Lots to talk about 12 months from now. Hold the group accountable. All right, so with some time remaining, hope some safe rounds, some hot topics from the audience.
Folks want to know.
Let's get something here. Great sponsor. Yes, sir.
Full points about stress financial advisors. I've dabbled a little bit with some of the AI models and such. One of the big problems I find is this lack of context and its inability or unwillingness to elicit more information that it needs to make a good decision. And then on the back end of that, decisions that may be optimized in reality, but us as humans not being optimal entities, not wanting to take that advice or those directions. So kind of a two-part question. I'm curious what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I think that probably, depending on what you're reading or hearing, context management is a huge challenge, right? A lot of the big companies are trying to focus on memory, but those end up being sort of stacked single lines, like you said this, you said this, you said this, and that's the context that gets fed into the AI systems that you're using. One thing you can do ahead of time when you are looking for advice, instead of say what I do is I challenge it and say, I plan ahead a little bit, and if I notice anything slightly off and suggest that it doesn't fully understand what I'm going after, I'll interrogate it until and keep iterating until I know that it's actually saying the words that I would expect to say. And that is one's judgment I just develop over time. I'll bounce it across different systems as well, and then I'll also force it to review things that we've covered and line by line and annotate particular pieces, and I'll turn that into context documents that I'll then bring into other systems and projects to make sure that I'm carrying that forward. These things should be solved in the future a little bit more, but what I focus on is a really specific goal, and I want optimal thinking partnership on that goal, and not just a little bit of list of notes. And so I have to think about this context problem. I don't know if that's helpful for you for your answer for you.
I think it is. It doesn't solve maybe practical problems today, but in the future.
Confidence without context. That's great stuff. I think I saw a few other hands popping up here. All the way back, yeah. I'll come back.
My followers are coming to I'll take a different track. I did about a decade in the Navy, corporate finance for about a decade, not very tech enthusiastic, kind of the Luddite sort of roll my eyes every time there's some big new release. But about 2 years ago, all of us about AI and hearing on every podcast and news, this might be something different. The sort of 3.5 Liberty turbo era, okay, I think there's something different here, and following it, and keeping up with it, and integrating it into my workflows, I think it was one of the best professional decisions I made, because 2 years later now, I'm using Cloud Code, building disposable software. I get a request, it comes in, I save it to my files, I tell Cloud Code what I need from it, it crunches the numbers, generates the report, it ships it, I'm done. I'm doing stuff that would take me 3, 4, 5 weeks in a day or two. My question for y'all is, are you afraid, the skills that you have developed when Apple development award and give it to MIT, like, a lot of time, effort, energy going into doing something like that. People like me are catching up pretty quick with the whole live coding thing. Is AI about to saturate the marketplace with garbage tech that sort of crowds out people who have real expertise? Is that a concern for you guys?
Well, for me particularly, I think I'm actually, I grew up at the right time, so that I can grow the enough experience in order to be the very, very strategic level decision maker on a lot of the decisions, and the specific tactical decisions are made by the models now. I just think like there's actually, I do think people will adapt to this. People are still super smart, right? And so, just like you're getting a lot of experience, I think you probably still need to put in like maybe 10,000 hours before you have the ability to see things at such a strategic level. The leverage that you have now or to be able to build something really cool is quite impressive.
That didn't mean to suggest it's on your level. I'm just saying, a lot more people will catch up quicker.
It's amazing, yeah. And you can see sometimes when you try to cobble together too many different systems about the high level planning that there starts to be some things break apart. But of course, then the systems are getting better and better at that too. And so, I'm so thrilled that so many other people can be engineers now. It's cool.
I'd agree with this perspective that, but your journey, we need to get the public service announcement of this. Like every college student, high school student, I got 2 nephews who are trying to go to college right now. They need to do what you did. Like this is the future, I think, because I view this as like a calculator, printing press type moment, like a dramatic new technology breakthrough has just come online. It's a question of how do you use it, and at this exact point, I think we looked at actually a historic paradigm of like think about how much human time used to be dedicated to pre-printing press, like transcribing books, or basic computation, like an abacus world kind of thing. And not to get too simplified here, but yeah, we're moving away from the tactics and into this like architect, engineer, thoughtfulness layer that I think is fantastic. It's like bringing up human time away from the basics and abstracting people to higher stuff. It's an interesting question of how far up the food chain does this stuff come, but I think it's a exciting moment to get leverage ultimately. But jump in there.
Yeah, I got an answer for it as well. I have two. One is hardware focused, one is like you guys both in hardware. And right now, at least for some amount of years, you're going to need a lot of professional judgment, training, and to make sure that you're building things that are going to be putting cargo, things at stake, right? And so, in that regard, very difficult to do these things where it's meeting the meat layer. But I think from a software perspective, yes, like all kinds of SaaS companies should be concerned. That's there's going to be a ton of creativity and new things happening in ways that companies work as different. A little bit more biased for myself is I think about what's going to matter in 2 years or 3 years, and to me that's heavily invoked. Like one of the challenges I had to start the company was I was living in that. What do I think this future is going to look like? I got to judgment being a very important thing, and that being the thing to cultivate the most. And AI systems that are helping you do your judgment. That's going to be a differentiator from everybody. And it's just going to be a way of like succeeding, not just differentiating. So I'm heavily focused on modeling judgment, the layers that are above, so sort of note takers and these things right now. So that's how I look at it.
That's great. We have 5 more minutes. Let's see if we can get a few more questions in. Was there one up here? Or did we just answer? Go forward.
Yeah, 2 questions. One, in terms of like maybe what do you think the future of interface is going to be as this thing evolves? Japanese and iPads, modal.
For my company specifically?
Yeah, or what do you think?
Yeah. I thought your question was going in a different direction, which was just software. I think you're going to be able to, even for software companies you go to, you'll be able to customize the way that you use that software. But for me specifically, I think it's multimodal. I think voice is heavily important for both signal attraction and seamlessness of use and speed of use. And that's actually a heavy interaction with the thinking. I think you can verbally context dump and iterate at the speed at which you're communicating with others. That's the interface I think is the most differentiated and most new and useful. But also I think this can be just one new text that when we work and copy their context across across like a chat interface. And so I have a mobile design in mind, but right now I deliver artifacts that give you insights and direction, and I have an interactive agent there that comes after if you want to jump into, hey, let's debrief, let's point to the next step. My thesis being, if I show somebody the landscape and the alternatives, they're going to make a better decision. That's how I meet them where they're at. Show them the landscape and then they decide. And then if they want to dig deeper into that, that's what kind of leads into this voice interaction, this text-based interaction, deeper work. So hopefully that answered your question. I had a couple different use cases that I could like get specific on about what the interaction looks like. It depends on where you're using it.
I love the quote from yesterday, taken from this conference, of somebody saying chat is to LLMs what GeoCities HTML static web page was to the internet. Like, this is a starting point, but there's a lot more exciting to do.
What about you, John, actually?
It's been fascinating seeing it in auto repair, a little bit of a less tech-forward industry. Chat and mobile accessibility makes a huge difference, but we see the future. We're trying to go this year. This is a context-aware passive. I mean, we all have the Siri or Alexa thing that's always listening in the background. What if that tool was aware of what you were actually doing in your skilled labor and able to not just listen when you want to phone a friend, but to actively chime in, hey, watch out for this, or hey, that part tends to break, or do this and save yourself 15 minutes. We see a lot of very interesting opportunity on the full-time mobile.
One quick follow-up, not really hot take, just belief, is you see other companies pushing devices that are listening all the time. I don't think socially that's going to be accepted for some amount of years, if ever. And so I think that you'll get that kind of power. A lot of power comes from doing it. But you'll get it more sort of siloed scenarios, like I'm setting out this goal, and so I want to listen for everything in this. And so, like your meetings is a good example. Like we're allowing AI into meetings now. 5 years ago, that's probably not socially acceptable stuff. That's a
I think that's a really good point. In our circumstance, if you're a pilot, there's a big thing related to having a transcript of everything that's said inside the cockpit, right? It's like a lot of the times if you're actually a professional pilot, that's not exactly what you want, because if they use a disciplinary action, you want to be able to make sure you want to make sure you have basic information security around that. And so one of the things that's true is that all pilots fly with iPad, and so with our interface, we have a very specialized interface for aviation. So we end up having a transcript that you can delete something from right away. It's not being transmitted. We're working on a multimodal audio interface because the pacing of the conversation inside of the cockpit, it depends a lot on when somebody starts calling your call sign. Everybody's like waiting to hear if it's actually their call sign, and then the conversation immediately resumes. And so there's a lot of specific applications to the use cases. This is the right question to ask.
Any last, right on the cusp here, any last save rounds? Anybody got anything that, jump on it?
So, yeah, I got a quick question. So, active duty, kind of looking at it from that lens, you mentioned that your comment was like 12, 18 months. These models are going to know us better than anyone else or anything. How do you kind of protect ourselves from whether they're going after profit, influence, or foreign influence, of being able to parse these huge data sets? Just what's kind of your forward look on?
Yeah, I think there's probably multiple directions that we could go with that one. How do you protect that kind of information? I think it needs to be user-owned primarily, and you have to have systems of trust to make sure that this is owned by you. Some of the power that I'm talking about giving, I believe that individual users have to pull that first, maybe the organization benefit, but they're not going to engage to get the full benefit unless it's serving them. And then you have the ability to trust that anything they do share organizationally or beyond them is in their control. So it's like a design principle that I take. DoD is a really challenging one because so for some reasons, getting them up to that speed, they'll probably be trailing where civilian world is at in 12 to 18 months to their detriment, honestly, because if you can get boosted cognitive thinking or process decision making in the DoD, that'd be very powerful. And it's also a risk factor. We have a model that's commander's judgment. That thing is going to be built. Approximate models about that is going to be built even without their consent. And so, big topic.
Feels to me like the cat and mouse game here of technology can be used for good, can be used for evil. I mean, you think betting just like, the scammers are now turbocharged, espionage, this stuff just, everybody just got a much bigger tool chest, and good news is some of the same techniques can be used on the other side, the counter side, but yeah, it's growth industries, it feels like. It's, fantastic. Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, especially leave a little bit extra time for networking or any questions, sidebars afterwards. Thank you to a fantastic panel for some very diverse and engaging perspectives.